Hello and hartelijk welcome from Belgium. This is today's Heart Live with Janelle, and I am coming to you from Antwerp, Belgium, where I have been welcoming and helping and caring for my brand new granddaughter, Ava Grace. And as I explained last week in our season 15 opener, our New Year 2024 opener, I'm in a long stay apartment here in Antwerp, and I'll be here for a couple more weeks. And I am in an informal setting, so the taping is not high quality, but it's coming straight from my heart, and that's what's most important to me. I just wanted to stay connected because it is a new year, and it is so important at the beginning of a new year to stand at the threshold and to reflect and to ask ourselves, what do we want to leave in the previous year and what do we want to take into this year, or perhaps even see happen in this year? And I started with a very powerful discussion on something I've been wanting to talk to you about for a long time: perception. And my key takeaways personally were: perception is how we, you and me, experience and give meaning to our surroundings. It's intangible. We can't see it. It happens inside of our brain. It's part of our cognitive functioning. And so we don't hear a lot of teaching or conversations happen around the whole idea of perception, or perhaps how we perceive the world. But I wanted to really speak about it as we begin this new journey of 2024. Perception is our ability. It's an ability, a capacity to see, to hear, or become aware of something through our senses. So our senses are really key and really important. There's 4 types of perception: visual perception, scent, SCENT perception, touch perception, and taste perception. And it's critical to remind ourselves that we are perceiving things continuously, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When we're awake, we are perceiving. It's a very, very important part of our cognitive functioning, as I said, of how we process life, how we make meaning of life, how we interpret someone else in our life. So it's key in our relationships, it's key in our mental and emotional health, and it's extremely important in our spiritual health. And as I shared last week over these 2 silly little dish rags, how I personally misperceived how my son-in-law was reacting to these dish rags that I had brought into a home and a kitchen where they only use sponges. Now that sounds really silly and ridiculous even when I say it out loud. But the lesson that I experienced, the very important life lesson I experienced in that situation, because I was aware, that's what we do here. When we are moving on our heart-lifting journey through life, we have an increased awareness of how we behave and how we perceive things and how we respond to others. And so I had an increased awareness, and it just quickened inside of me how I misperceived something so significantly and wasted so much time and energy by fabricating, perhaps even catastrophizing or magnifying, just giving space to stinking thinking, to cognitive dysfunction and distortion during that day. And I think to myself, how many times am I doing that in one day, where I am misperceiving someone's actions towards me or their nonverbals towards me? And that we can even expand that to socially, in social cultures. And I'm in a new culture, and I'm learning so much. So today I just want to introduce to you the 8 stages of perception. This is going to be very foundational, very simple, and hopefully will just shine some light on how the perception process actually happens inside of our brains. First stage is the environmental stimulus. The world is full of stimuli that can attract attention. Environmental stimulus is everything in the environment that has the potential to be perceived. So today, I took a trip on the tram by myself. I was trying to complete a full circle moment for me because when I was here the first week, I did something brave and I got my hair cut. And after I was done, I thought, oh, I'm just gonna hop on the tram and I want to go exchange my American money for European currency for my euros. And I thought I could do it by myself. So I asked the front desk here at my apartment complex, and they were like, oh, it's so easy, it's so simple. And they took out the map that they provided for me when I checked in, and they marked it off and they said, go here, get on the tram, and then it's stop at this stop called Diamante. I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, but because it is a stop that takes you into the diamond district of Antwerp, which, in case you didn't know, here is a side note that you might use on a Jeopardy game, who knows? Belgium's biggest port is Antwerp. And so through the centuries, Antwerp has become known as the capital of the world's diamond business. I was astounded when we took a walking tour through city center Antwerp and found that out. I just didn't know. So I am taking this tram ride. I'm trying to get to this stop, and I know nothing. And I didn't want to ask my daughter just because I wanted to do it on my own. So I thought, I can do this on my own. I can make it happen. Well, I didn't make it happen. I ended up missing the stop because I really didn't know what I was doing. Everything's in Dutch. I had no idea how to use my maps on my phone, Google Maps. I have since learned all of the above. But that day, I went all the way to the end of the tram stops and ended in this place called Regatta. And I saw a lovely family. They were the only ones left on the train with me. And I said, do you speak English? And they said, yes, I do. We do. And this man was so helpful. And he said, oh my goodness, you've come to the end. You need to go turn around and go back. And then the engineer hopped off and he was so helpful. And just all of these beautiful souls hopped into my life to help me get back home. And of course, I got scolded by my daughter because she was like, Mom, why didn't you ask me? I can't really explain it, but I just really wanted to try to do it on my own. Maybe as I have, I've analyzed myself. When I was younger, when I was 20, I really wanted to be a rockette. I wanted to go to New York. I wanted to be a dancer on Broadway. But quite frankly, I was misguided and I was scared. I was afraid. I didn't go because I was afraid. I now know that fear was basically part of my insecure attachment, and it might have not ended well if I had gone because of my low insecurities, and that because that's a rough road to just go to New York by yourself. And so there's always been this ache, I suppose, this pearly ache, you might say, of wanting to fiercely be independent. And I love, love, love that my firstborn has done that. And she left home and traveled the world. And my twins have done the same. They have traveled the country and traveled the world as well. But they have such a sense of security and a sense of self. They're not afraid to try new things. And so perhaps if I'm really honest with myself, that's what I was just trying to do. And so all day long, I just found all these kind people that helped me. And I came back and I didn't beat myself up. I didn't give myself any negative thoughts. I thought, you did it, you tried it, you got back, you're safe. Okay. But it left me wanting to really learn and become able to do it on my own. So with my daughter's help, and then when Rob was here, we really learned how to use Google Maps. We learned how to find out how to use public transport. We learned about all the stops in the different parts of the city. I've just immersed myself in a new culture and taught myself how to do life in a different way. That's the takeaway. Now, you don't have to be immersed in a different culture to force yourself into learning new ways of doing life. But one of the greatest ways of learning how to do life better is by learning and understanding what makes your brain tick. And that's why we're doing perception. Okay. So environmental stimulus is the first stage of perception. And this happens just because there is just so much stimuli around us every day. Second phase is attended stimulus. The attended stimulus is the specific object in the environment on which our attention is focused. So in my object lesson of the 2 dish rags last week, we can see that the second stage, the dish rags, became the attended stimulus in the kitchen, which was the environment in which I was stimulated. The third stage moved into more of the science, I guess you would say, behind this process, the neuroscience, is the image that is then placed or projected onto your retina. This part of the perception process involves light passing through the cornea and the pupil onto the lens of the eye. The cornea helps focus the light as it enters, and the iris controls the size of the pupils to determine how much light to let in. The cornea and lens act together to project an inverted image onto the retina. The fourth stage, transduction. So that image then that has been projected onto the retina is transformed into electrical signals through a process called transduction. This allows visual messages to be transmitted to the brain to be interpreted. Now you might say, Janelle, this is just so much science. I don't really care about the 8 stages of perception. But in truth, it is so important to take a pause here at the beginning of a blank slate of a year. To say, to think, to ponder how your brain works, how you process continual images that are projected onto your retina 24 hours a day, 7 days a week when you're awake. Because then those images are going to become visual messages that are transmitted to your brain for your brain to interpret them. And it's in the interpretation process where our maladaptive processes have great effect on our life. And if we have been raised in an environment or we have any form of little t, middle t, big T trauma, or, we just are imperfect. We're imperfect people that we just don't interpret things correctly. So in the 5th stage of our perceptive process is neural processing. So here's where it happens. After transduction, the electrical signals undergo neural processing. So important. The path, we talk a lot about our neural pathways here. A lot of the work that I do in my aroma freedom technique is totally committed to rewiring negative neural pathways or ruts and ridges within our brain that have not been formed properly in our childhood. So here in this 5th stage, the path followed by a particular signal depends on what type of signal it is. So this is where those sensory perceptions are going to come in. So if it's an auditory signal, a visual signal, a taste signal, a smell signal. Perception is the 6th stage. In this step of the perception process, you perceive the stimulus object in the environment. It is at this point that you are consciously aware of the stimulus. So the key here is that word, conscious. We talk a lot about how our subconscious informs our life on a day-to-day basis, and we're not even aware of it. So if you re-listen to these stages, you'll see that stages 1 through 5 are all happening on the subconscious level. That's a lot of work being done inside of our brain that we are completely unaware of it happening. Stage 7 brings us to recognition. Now we're conscious. I'm conscious of these 2 dish rags. I'm conscious of the negative thoughts firing away in my brain. I am now conscious of it, and I am processing it, and I'm trying to make sense and meaning of it. Perception doesn't just involve becoming consciously aware of the stimuli. It is also necessary for the brain to categorize and interpret what you are sensing. The ability to interpret and give meaning to the object is the next step, known as recognition. So we're recognizing, I have a little bit of a problem here. I think these 2 dish rags that have been placed in a Ziploc are saying that my son-in-law thinks I'm crazy because I can't use a sponge to do the dishes, or he doesn't like them, so he doesn't like me bringing them into the house. Oh, can I go on? Can you relate? Please, please tell me. Talk to me. I am bearing my soul here, and I would just love to hear perhaps an object lesson in your own life. Please meet me over on Instagram at Janelle Reardon, or on our brand new Substack, which is heartliftcentral.substack.com. Okay, so our last stage is action. The action phase of the perception process involves some type of motor activity that occurs in response to the perceived stimulus. This might involve a major action, like running toward a person in distress, but it can also involve something as subtle as blinking your eyes in response to a puff of dust blowing through the air. Think of all the things you perceive on a daily basis. At any given moment, you might see familiar objects, feel a person's touch against your skin, smell the aroma of a home-cooked meal, or hear the sound of music playing in your neighbor's apartment. All of these help make up your conscious experience and allow you to interact with the people and objects around you. To close out the full circle of my first week adventure in Antwerp of trying to take this tram ride on my own without any instruction, without any awareness, because the lovely young women at the front desk of my apartment complex were just like, it's so easy. It's so easy. You just go 5 stops and you're there. And I just thought, okay, they said it was so easy, so this should be no problem. Well, what I have learned, here is the takeaway for this lesson today on perception, is what's easy for you might not be easy for me, and what's easy for me might not be easy for you. And I think there's a lot of weight to understanding that. You know, people say, oh, it's so easy. It's just easy. You just do this. You just 5 ingredients, pop it in the oven. You fill in the blank of a time in your life when someone has said to you, it's just easy. It's not going to be any problem. You've got this. And they're well-meaning. I mean, they live here. These 2 young women live here. They've done the tram forever. They know the system, whereas I do not. And so their easy was not my easy. And it really made me, after that first experience, take a pause and go, okay, be careful, Janelle, even in your own life or with your children, and especially with my clients, to say, this is just easy. Just apply these 3 steps, follow them for 3 weeks, and you'll be fine. And I just feel like, you know what? My easy is not your easy. And your easy is not my easy. So I had to go look up the definition of easy. Not sure that I ever have. It's an adjective, and it means a couple things. Causing or involving little difficulty or discomfort. Can you believe that? Discomfort is actually in the definition of easy. Causing or involving little difficulty or discomfort. Well, I think we would all agree that we would love life to be easy for a season. Some would say, I really just want some ease. It can also mean requiring or indicating little effort, thought, or reflection. Let me repeat. Requiring or indicating little effort, thought, and reflection. So I wanted to just do this tram ride, nail it the first time, and voila, I'm a huge success. But it failed. I didn't do it right, but I found many, many glimmers along the way, because that's what glimmers are. They are micro moments that bring joy or ease into your life. And an engineer that hopped off the tram, a family on the tram. There were just so many moments and glimmers that helped me find my way back home. And yet it was not easy. And so to complete my adventure, because I'm not one to quit, I'm not going to quit, and I'm going to conquer it. And at age 64, I'm determined to conquer it and to prove to myself that I can do something that perhaps my mind, my perceptions, my fears tell me I can't do. So I went on a mission. I got what we like to call here a Nona school. And my daughter taught me all about Google Maps, like I said. And I would watch her as we would navigate from place A to B to C to D. I learned the area. I immersed myself, as I've said already. I faced the discomfort and the humbling of myself to be willing to be taught about different public transport systems and what the symbols are on Google Maps and how to find the stops and which direction I go in, and just a lot to take in. Now I'm 64, so I'm not as quick as I used to be. I'm facing and being very aware of the aging process. I'm not old by any means, but I definitely have seen some challenges in my thought processes, my cognition, etc. I'm sure you can relate if you are in the stages that I'm in. But even so, at any age right now, we have so many digital distractions that I think it's affecting all of us in our capacity to be able to really focus and do deep thinking. And this learning of how to be in a new culture and use public transport, I don't do this at home. Learning how to walk everywhere, do all the things that you do in a different culture. I have seen that I have needed more focus in order to really retain the information. But I've been very, very determined. Has it caused me discomfort? Yes. Has it been a little difficult? Yes. Has it made me really have to put out maximum effort? Yeah, it has. And so in order to close the circle of this journey, after learning everything, I'm now in my 4th week of being here. Yesterday, it was a beautiful sunny day, which is rare here in Antwerp. In fact, a report just came out that there was only 20 hours of sunlight in Antwerp in December. I'll put that article on our show notes just for your kicks and giggles, because it just rains here all the time. My daughter told me, but I wasn't prepared. And so it's a beautiful sunny day. My daughter and her family had to go to immigration and do all of the necessary work. So I had a few hours by myself, and I thought, okay, today's the day. Let's do it. Let's try this trip again, and let's see what we've learned. And let's face some fear of maybe not being able to do it again. And so I did. I pulled up my Google Maps. I put in where I wanted to go, and I made my way to the stop. Well, I am so happy to report that I did it. Yay! Cheers, please. Yay! And the sense of fulfillment that I got it was just priceless. It really was. I was like, I cannot wait to share this with my Heartlifters. I cannot wait to encourage my community that life isn't always easy, but I will say that it was rather easy. I knew what I was doing this time. I was prepared. I had done my work. I had put in the time, and with great effort, I learned how to navigate the tram in Antwerp. Now I will try again and go to different places, but I'm just super proud. I'm super proud of myself, and I want to encourage you to do something that perhaps your perceptive processes have said you can't do that. You can't do that. You're gonna fail. Perhaps there is a trigger hidden in your subconscious. Well, return to our previous episodes on how to take the tension out of triggers and how to consolidate perhaps negative narratives in your brain. But I want to encourage you. I'm sharing my story. As silly as these stories might sound to you, I know that every day you face something in your life that perhaps you feel like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I want to encourage you, put in the time, do the research, put in the effort, figure it out, try it, just try. You might fail and you might fail again. But once again, repeat the process. Put in the time, put in the effort, do the research, do the work. And I promise, with all of my heart, I promise you that you will succeed. And the even bigger takeaway here is that when we know and understand the neuroscience, even on a minimal foundational sense, we gain power. We gain power. We possess then a capacity to go, okay, I know what my brain's doing. There's been some wiring in my brain from earlier times in my life, and it's not functioning properly. So I want to take some time, like I did with the Dishrags, like I did with the tram, and go sit down and think about this, Janelle, okay? And do the necessary introspection. I prayed. I also add prayer. Please don't let me forget the most important process involved is our spiritual maturity and our spiritual formation. And so I hope this encourages you today. I hope that it gives you a real pep in your step to do something that perhaps you want to do that you've been afraid to do. And I want to hear all about it. You know that I do. Make sure that you contact me over on Instagram at Janelle Reardon. I will be watching in between baby and toddlerhood and taking care of my daughter and family. I am here for you. I'm doing the best I can to give you some reports from my beautiful glimmering adventures in Antwerp. Until next time.